Hello y'all on YouTube, this is Rob with Rob's Nerdy Knives. Today we're doing a review impressions of 3 Remette knives that were loaned to me from Tri-State EDC, and I got to get them back to him, but I wanted to kind of review them together because they're kind of sort of in the same category. So let's take a look at these guys. Alright, today we're reviewing 3 different knives. These are the 3 knives from loaned to me from Cole from Tri-State EDC. These particular knives are going to be all made by Remette. Remette is the OEM for the knives, and each of the knives, you know, they're very unique in one regard, and they're all, I guess, different in another regard. But I would call these all their premium knives. So it's kind of felt like it would be good to do them all together and kind of get a good review impressions of these guys. So let's go ahead and take a look at these guys and, you know, kind of get into them. All right, the first one here, this is the Chameleon. This is like their Father's Day edition of the Chameleon. There's one that's not quite as fire anodized as this. The next guy right here is the RT-Kingfisher. This is the RT-Kingfisher. And then the last one right here is the Remette Wild Species. So that's the 3 different knives that we're looking at today. So first thing first is they're all M390 blade steel. This one is a crossbar lock. This one is M390 as well, but this one here is a frame lock with thumb studs, but kind of a unique thumb studs, where this one has thumb studs, but it's a crossbar lock. And then you got another frame lock. This one has thumb studs as well, and yet different thumb studs as well. So they're all similar in that regard. They all have lanyard loops, as you can see. This one's a little sharp, but it is beautifully contoured otherwise. Just wish that wasn't the case right there. Got a beautiful blue anodization collar, flat grind. This is a flat grind as well, very unique. It has a little bit of recurve on this one, which is interesting. The clip here is a little pointy, a little sharp, but it's definitely very functional. Hidden hardware. Same over here. It's a little pointy, a little sharp. It's a little thinner, but not hidden hardware. And then this last one here, no hidden hardware. A little easy to get into, definitely rounded. That's a little more comfortable for sure. So I like that. All right. Talking about the knife maker, the manufacturer, and the designer. I believe these are all in-house Remette design, so we'll just go with that. And then finally, we talked about the lock type. One's a crossbar, 2 are frame locks, right? All of them open with thumb studs. This one also happens to be a flipper as well. So this one right here also happens to have a little flipper, which is cool. This one over here is thumb studs only, but it is crossbar, so you kind of have a second kind of opening. This one is thumb studs as well, but it is a front flipper as well. So you have a dual opening on that one as well. So they each have at least 2 ways of opening, which I think is kind of cool. They close, obviously, with the crossbar. You drop it, and it closes right in, right? Frame lock, you release it. It does have a little cutaway, not a whole lot of room. It's not super tight, but it's not the most comfortable in the world in the sense. I wish there was a little bit more relief in there. Not bad. It's not a crazy hard lock bar, so it's not super uncomfortable. I will say that. So it's cool. Now this one has a unique recurve and a unique blade shape. So these are knives that you're gonna either love or hate, right? And then this is probably the one that's to me the most appealing personally. Lock bar, beautiful cutaway, easy access, nice easy access to get in there too. It does have this flipper with a little hole in there. I don't know if that's sort of an aesthetic. Put a little triangle, which is kind of cool, I guess. And it does have some jimping on top here. No jimping on here, but those flat thumb studs can kind of act as a place to put your fingers. Beautiful crown spine, but no jimping as well. And then you've got these very unique thumb studs. Like you could easily put an O-ring on there, right? All captive pivots. They all look like they all take, well, this is T8, T8s. This is a flathead screwdriver, which is unique. I believe, hold on, T6 on this one, T6 on this one as well. Yeah, T6 on this one as well. And on this one, oh yeah, this is the one that's kind of unique. It does come off over here, I believe, I think this comes off or something. You pull this, yeah, you pull this right here, and that locks it. So this goes on this little loop in here like this. Let me see if I can get it back on. So it goes, oops. Come on. So you got to get it in there. And then it locks, it just clicks in place like that. So that's the release with the flathead screwdriver. So that's unique. This one's definitely the most unique. This is the most colorful, I would say, as far as design goes. So, I mean, you know, it's, you're going to like the Chameleon. You might like the RT-Kingfisher. I believe that's what's called, right? RT-Kingfisher. Let me make sure. Am I saying that correctly? RT-Kingfisher. Yeah. And then this one right here is the wild species. So wild species, RT-Kingfisher, and Chameleon. Father's Day edition. All right. So that's the lock. That's opening, closing, and everything else. Blade shape. All of them are flat grind. No swedge on this one. Has a fuller, beautifully crowned, which is kind of a nice aesthetic. A nice swedge for a great cutting angle. You kind of have a second point right there. I don't know if you'd call this a tanto, what you'd call this, a sheep tanto, a shanto, sheep tanto, I don't know. And this is a typical drop point with a swedge on top. A pretty aggressive, thick blade, I would say. It does have a swedge, but I love the fact that you can really choke up on this with that nice angle coming in there, and you can have a real place, and it definitely allows more room for hands. Over here, you know, we're going to get into measurements here in a second, but this one you're kind of limited. You're going to be off to the side. I have extra large hands with, I have large hands with big meaty fingers, which is equivalent to extra large hands with normal fingers, double extra large hands with smaller, thinner fingers, right? So there's that. That one's almost going to be right at the edge, and there's really no choke up position on this one. This one as well, you're right to the edge, but you do have a full finger choke up, so you have a lot of extra room. So that is kind of cool. All right, so that's the coatings. This is fire anodized. Titanium. There is no weight relief on the inside, but it is a crossbar lock, so that means there's a little cutout on top for the Omega springs, so you'll see that. This right here is a lock bar, frame lock. There is a very minimal weight relief going on in there, but not a whole lot. Beautiful little, I don't know, we call this anodization, or how they got that on there. Is this painted or something? It's probably painted. And then this one here has some weight relief, not a whole lot, but it's not bad. It's not bad at all. Yeah, my only wish is that wasn't so aggressive. This wasn't so aggressive, right? On this one over here, it is kind of a bolstered sort of a lock where this is laid on top. It looks like, yeah, because this comes off and goes on top, so you can see it's a different piece of construction right there. And then this one over here is just one big piece of slab of titanium with a big titanium backspacer. These guys over here is also a backspacer, but that's integrated. Another backspacer over here as well. All right, so let's do some measurements on these guys. Let's get some weights. So let me close these and put them off to the side. And we'll do that. All right, so the first one here, we'll go ahead and measure the I keep forgetting it. The wild species. The wild species. 4.2 ounces on the wild species. So that's the first one. The next one, we're looking at 4.3 ounces. Very similar to the other one. And this one I think is going to be the heaviest. Yeah, 4.5 ounces. So what was that? 4.3? So we're almost, you know, sequential in weight in increments, right? So it's not bad. Not bad at all. All right, so let's go ahead and do length measurement on these guys. So you could do this a little here, but yeah, it's easier for me to show you with the tape measure. So on the first one, the wild species, we are dealing with overall length of just under 8 inches, probably 7 7/8, I would say 7 7/8, yeah. Next one here, we're dealing with one. If you include the clip, we're about 8 1/8, but right at 8 inches if you don't include the little lanyard loop. Then over here we are at 7 3/4 for this one. All right, so overall handle length right here, you've got about 4.5. If you go all the way down here, if you go in here, you're about 3.5 inches, right? But I would say this is reasonable to be using, so maybe 4 5/8. Over here, definitely less area, but it does get you up to about 3 3/4. And then over here, you have the inner length right here all the way out, so about 3 3/4. But if you use the finger control, which is very, very usable in my opinion, you have about 4 3/4, so not bad. Overall length on the first one here, on our wild species, is just under, I would say 3 5/8. So 3 5/8 on this one. Overall cutting length, let's go ahead and just do that while we're here. It's going to be 3 3/8 on this one. 3 3/8. So we'll do that. And then the next one here, we have overall cutting length. If we go from the tip to back here, it's going to look like it's about 3 3/4, maybe just over, maybe 3 3/8. But overall cutting length is going to be over 3.5, maybe 3 Ooh, 16th. Let's do 9/16. Probably 9/16. Yeah. So overall cutting length wise from here to here, I mean, the blade is definitely going to be over 3.5 inches. It all depends. Some people measure from the tip to the scale, but the scale goes back. This is just an extension right here, right? And the blade goes well inside of the tip of that scale. Over here, you have from the tip to the scale, you're about 3 3/8. Overall cutting length is right at 3 inches. All right, so that is the overall length on each one of those. Let's go ahead and get a blade stock thickness on these guys. All right, so blade stock thickness on the 3 different knives. The first one is our wild species. We're going to go ahead and look at that one, and that one is 118 thousandths of an inch. All right, so that's not bad. It's a little under the 120 thousandths of an inch, but it's not terrible. All right, the next one is 118 thousandths of an inch as well, so it's right along the same lines. This one I bet it's going to be a little thicker. 138 thousandths of an inch, almost 139 thousandths of an inch, so 0.149. So this is the thickest of the 3, definitely with the big old crown spine. All right, so where do these fall into? Well, all of these knives are not super expensive. They're all going to be within the regular range of knives. They're around $200, depends on where you go. If you go to Amazon, Remette, whatever, there's some good deals are out there. Remette doesn't list this one. This one's only listed on Amazon for the Chameleon. At least the Father's Day edition is. As far as the RT-Kingfisher, and this one right here, you're looking at between 2 and I want to say about 2 and 260 or 240 or 250. I want to say is what I saw, but I mean, it all depends on where you look. Very reasonable price for what you're getting. You're getting titanium scales, M390 blade steel, which I think it's really good. Executed very well, works really nicely, I would say. So again, the deal with Remette is you get a lot for what you pay for. And if you're looking for a nicer knife and you're on a budget, this is definitely something to consider. I think it's worth a consideration, right? If you have a lot more to spend, I mean, there's a lot more options out there, right? But if sometimes you want to get a nicer looking knife, this is certainly an option to look at. And if you want a nice knife that you can beat up on, you know, maybe you have the money, but you want a nicer knife to carry around that you can really beat up on, this is also a really great option, right? And they're very unique designs, so they're either going to speak to you or they're not, right? And to me, it's like this one's not really quite my favorite, but it's unique. It's very unique, right? And so in that regard, I think it's cool because somebody's going to love that. It may not be my cup of tea. I mean, to me, this is of all of them, this is the one I like the most, but it's also the most basic as far as the knife designs are concerned. So I get that. I like the Chameleon a lot. I like the non-Father's Day edition that's just not all fire anodized like this, which I think is pretty cool as well. So I like that. All right. So what is the purpose? EDC, hard use? Absolutely. Could they be collection pieces? In that price range, anything can be a collection piece, right? It's not a budget knife or super budget knife, though Remette makes some great super budget knives. I did check out a D2 version. It was in like $30 range. Really good deal on that one. But for these nicer knives, I think you're getting a lot for what you're paying. So I think in that regard, I think it's definitely worth there's a benefit there, right? Absolutely a benefit there. All right, so we're definitely in the regular range between $100 and $300. And the EDC use could be a collection piece. I think every one of these could be hard use. Now, this is a crossbar lock, so you always have to keep that in mind. Some people aren't super fans with the Omega springs, but it's pretty solid, right? Frame lock's always nice because you can do a little grip and make sure you get tight in there, and it holds it pretty well. So I think there's benefit with that. And then of course, this last one here is also a frame lock as well, and can do a nice grip and have a good presentation. So I think there's, you know, of the 3, the frame lock is probably going to be your tougher of those knives. At least that's my opinion, at least in this construction that I'm feeling here. I don't think this is a weak knife at all. I have some Benchmades, I have some Hogues, I have some other crossbar locks that I really do like. So I'm not opposed to, I don't know what I got on here. Did I get a little oil on there? I guess I did. I'm not opposed to any of those knives in that regard, right? All right, so overall, ergos and feels. How do I feel about these? Well, you know, we did the unboxing. This one was pretty comfortable. The thumb stud surprisingly worked really well. It opens and closes pretty well. access there is not bad because it's not a really tough lock bar that's uncomfortable. I do wish this was not as pointy. That would be my one criticism if they come out with a new version. Kind of round that off. It's a little sharp. Now, if this was my knife, I would file that down. Being raw titanium, not a problem to take care of that. It is a little gritty right here. It's almost like a little bit of a cheese grater kind of thing going on here. We're really, really close to the lock bar back there, and hopefully everything stays in place and the stop pin is all good. I like all of that. So I think this is really nice ergos. The open and close is really great. You catch it on your thumb. You're not going to cut yourself. You're not going to have a guillotine. Over here as well, you catch it on here. You are clear to clutch right there, so you can definitely drop it. It's a little tighter on this one, for sure. So being that it's a little tighter on this one, you can absolutely, if you wanted to, loosen that up a little bit. I did have a little problem with this being loose. It's not my knife, so I didn't put in, a Loctite in there, which you could do. Beautifully centered, all of them. I was very, very surprised by that. This one's not as aggressive as the tip, but it's still got some points to it, right? So, but the action on this one is pretty good. Again, the lock is not terrible, and this thumb stud actually works. It actually works not badly, so surprisingly, right? Coming over here on the left side, because there is sort of with this kind of unique construction, it's relatively easy to reverse flick, both front flick, reverse flick like that. And then because of the placement of the flipper above the pivot and the center of gravity of the pivot, you get a nice actuation on that. So I think that's pretty cool. So opening and closing is pretty good on that one. Again, here, thumb studs, these work, they're rounded. Typically these are pretty sharp, but I would put O-rings on these for sure, right? That would be my choice. Even though they're very gold, very ornate, some people are gonna really dig this. That would be my choice. But you do have a fuller, and the fuller works well. So, that's kind of a sort of a bonus flick. All right, so overall feel, I do like this with all that extra bonus. They all feel like they are in caged ceramic bearings, which I think is great. So overall feel. I like how they all feel. Sharp little edge, that's my only thing here. Wish the grip was a little bit wider. Wish there was a choke point up there. This makes it a little difficult. It'd be nice if this wasn't pointed right there. It kind of limits you and then digs into you. And again, this little edge, that could be nicer, a little smoother. This is the nicest clip of all of them. Very cool, very comfortable all the way around. You can choke up, which is really cool. But it's kind of got some wonky thumb studs that I wish were a little bit better. I mean, again, this is one of those knives, you're going to love the aesthetic or you're not, right? And these knives very much will pull in a very specific group of people. So, if that's the case, then you know who that is, right? But looking at them as overall quality, and if you look at the other Chameleon, that's not exactly the same design, it might be a little more appealing. It is to me. If I were to think about all these knives, the one that's kind of the most appealing are going to be these two with the regular Chameleon one, not this super fire anodized one. This is not quite my aesthetic. The blade shape, I like the thumb studs. I think that's kind of cool. I like the flipper. It's got great actuation there. I wish the grip was a little more favorable, or had a little more handle right there, and this little part didn't dig into my hand. So that's my overall feeling on overall feel and kind of a evaluation. So let's talk about fidget factor. So on this one, you have the thumb studs, you have the front flipper, right? And that's it. So you get so you have two, but they work really, really well, and they work relatively well, left-handed as well. And let's see here. I couldn't really reverse flick this. Ooh, these thumb studs are loose. Well, this is not my knife, so that's interesting. I wonder how you tighten that. Anyways, I don't know if these are production samples or something, or prototypes, but yeah. So I couldn't really bonus. So I'm going to give this a 3. Unfortunately, because reverse flicking is just not that great. This one had pretty good reverse flick, right? Because you had that little bolster lock, and you can easily get to there. You had the thumb flick, right? And then you have the thumb studs that worked really well. So I'm going to give this like a 4.5, which is going to be rounded up to a 5. So that's a very generous 4.5. On this one right here, I like the fact that it is a crossbar lock. You have thumb studs that work, even though they're not the most comfortable. They're not terrible. Right? They're not terrible. I've had far worse where this part wasn't rounded and it was super sharp, and that's ooh, no comfortable, not very good, right? So, and you have the fuller. Oops, if I can get in there, you have the fuller that works really nicely. And this is obviously left and right-handed. Now it's not. Wait a second. I think this is reversible. Is it reversible? It is reversible. Wow. Okay. Left and right hand reversible. This one's obviously not. And this one's obviously not. Yeah, it's not. So, but that one is. That's interesting. All right. So cool, cool. So I'm going to give this one here a 5 because it does have some multiple. It has the fuller that works. It has the crossbar lock as well, right? So that works really nicely. So I'll go ahead and give that one a 5 because it's executed really well. All right. So what is the fidgety goodness on this one? This one's going to be probably, I'm going to give it an 80. It's going to be a B minus, right? Only because the left-handed, you kind of miss out on it, and it works really nice right-handed. The front flipper works really well. You've got jimping that goes all the way up here to the very top. I like that, so that works really nicely. So that definitely gives it a 5. Over here, I love the jimpings all the way out. You definitely have a little place to catch on here. So I would say for this one, out of its 4, I said I was giving it a 4, right? 4.5, maybe 4.5, rounded to 5. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one a good 90, an A minus. I think an A minus. Everything works really well. You know, again, it's the aesthetics that's kind of catching me on this one. That's my challenge. On this one, I would say this is a good, it's not quite an A plus. It's not quite an A. It's still an A minus as far as I'm concerned. There's some places you could make it a little bit better. It's not super crisp as far as the Omega spring is. That could be just a little bit tighter if I were to be honest, which I am. I'm going to be absolutely deadly honest. So I would give this one probably, I'd give it a 92. It's still an A minus. It's a little bit, it's better. This one's better than that. Okay. So that's my overall feel. So how do I think, what I think about them? Okay. So knowing what they are, knowing their cost point, knowing their target audience, I take that into mind, right? I'm not going to give the same evaluation like I would with my Brown Knives Cortex XL or my Skiff Made Blades, you know, Fugitive. They're not going to get the same weight on this because that would be unfair. That would be absolutely incredibly unfair. But for offering for $200 for everything you're doing, I think it's a nice competitive look. It's very different. It's a different aesthetic altogether, something that I really don't see a whole lot out there. This is very unique, right? This is unique too. I like this look of this knife. It works really well, so I think that's kind of cool. And then this one's kind of cool too. I would prefer the non-fire anodized. There'll be a link down below in the description. You'll see, you know, where it is on Amazon. But that one I think would be very, very more up my alley if I were to get a knife that I wanted to beat up, or maybe get a nicer knife for someone that wasn't going to spend a whole lot, but I would spend a bit, right? So that's where this kind of comes in. All right, so I'm going to recommend these. I'm very strongly recommending this one because this is probably my favorite. I'm comfortable recommending this one, even though the left-handed fidgetiness is not quite there because you can't really get into that thumb stud. It is my one kind of disappointment. The thumb stud kind of takes it away. I have no place to get underneath that one to really get a nice deployment left-handed to. Now I can left-hand deploy this one because I can get in there nicely enough, right, to do it. But I can't right-handed. I can't do it left-handed. So this one's recommended, but it's like it's barely recommended, to be honest. This one's cool. I'll recommend this one. It is so outside my aesthetic. It's so outside of anything I would ever buy or have in my collection. I will tell you straight up front, I would never own this blade shape. It's not my cup of tea. I don't like gold on black, but I like everything about the blade otherwise. If this was a plain titanium, had a different blade shape, I mean, I would dig it, right? I do wish, this is my one thing, I wish this wasn't, this really limits your people, right? So it's going to be really more favor smaller hands, or people who are willing to have really big hands and split their hands out right there. I'm right at that point where my hand wants to fall right there. And so this one's also going to be barely recommended, but I'm going to recommend it nonetheless because I think there's going to be people who like it. Just take that recommendation. I hope you get to this part of the review and you understand what I'm saying, that so you know if any of these things are important aspects to you, you will consider that. So this one's probably my most recommended. I do like this one. I do like it a lot. And they did a good job. Everything about it, it's nice and rounded. I just wish the thumb studs were different. But this is the Father's Day edition. I forget what, I didn't really remember looking at the thumb studs on the regular one, so I should probably go take a look at that. But yeah, so that's kind of where I stand. So again, I like what they're doing. I like the price point that they're in. There'll be links down below in the description. I don't try to always go into details because prices are subject to change, right? At the time I record the video, it could be different at the time I drop the video, so just keep that in mind. But kind of some cool knives. It's different. I like to see different. I like to see competition out there. This is something that you don't see like in Civivi or Wii knives, and I think that's cool. I do. So I like to see that. I'd love for them to hone some of these designs a little bit more. I would really like a couple small fixes, and I mean this could be a banger, right? A different blade shape. This could absolutely maybe a little different color scheme there. With that, this could be an absolute banger. The non-fire Father's Day anodized version here, I think this one is a banger. I do like it, so, but I don't have it. I can only compare it to this one, right? So that's all I can say. I don't know if the non-Father's Day version is absolutely 100% different, but I like the design and the feel of it overall. So that's my thoughts on this. Let me know what you think. You know, Remette is not a well-known one, and some people are going to be like, oh, I absolutely don't like him, or I love him, or whatever, and I get it. It's not meant to polarize, but it's meant to give you options, right? There are options out there. There's different designs, there's different makers. It gives you some choices. If you're at that point where you want to spend a little bit more on a knife, but you don't have that much, you know, to spend. I mean, someone will say, oh, just buy USA. But, you know, you can't buy this type of USA unless you're willing to spend $500, right? You get into some of those much more expensive realms for knives. But I think this is a nice option for what you're getting if the aesthetics speak to you. So that's where I stand. I'd love to hear your comments, your thoughts on this. Yeah. So, hey, thanks for watching. Hey, if you found this content fun, interesting, worthwhile, or entertaining, would you please consider hitting the like button down below? And if you've already hit that like button, would you please consider hitting the subscribe button down below? Subscribing and liking the videos really helps out the channel, allows the channel to produce more content, do more things, ultimately do more things for you guys. So thank you to everyone out there who watches the videos, who comments, who is part of the live stream, who even subscribes, who maybe channel members, everybody out there. Thank you. Thank you for being part of this channel. And a big shout out to the channel members also. I appreciate you guys. If it wasn't for you, you know, there's a lot of things I wouldn't be able to do. And so I'm very, very grateful to all you channel members out there. I appreciate you so very much. Just want you to know that. You guys help me to do things way sooner than I ever thought I'd be able to do. You also encourage me sometimes when it's hard to get content out. So I just want to say thank you to you guys. And if you like being a channel member, you thought, hey, channel member sounds pretty cool. I'd love to help the channel. I would love to have you. I'd be honored. I do a couple of nice things for channel members. And I would just want you to know that real quick. But if you're interested in being a channel member, check the link down below in the description. There's a link for 3 different tiers. Would love to have you at any level if you want to be. Don't ever feel obligated, but just if you want to. Right. So the 2 things I do for channel members. One is I have a once a month channel members exclusive giveaway. And because people have been so generous with the channel memberships, I want to be generous back and usually do something nice for you guys. So that's the first thing. Second of all, I also send every brand new channel member a sticker. A channel member sticker. So if you're a brand new channel member, or you've been a channel member for a while and you're currently a channel member and you've never asked for a sticker, or you were a channel member before and became a channel member again and currently are a channel member and you've never asked for a channel member sticker, email me with your name and address. I'd love to mail you a channel sticker and say thank you. It's another way for me to just kind of reach out and say thank you to you guys. So I appreciate you guys. Appreciate everyone who's part of the channel. Thank you. Thank you. If you haven't already, check me out over on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives. Again, that's on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day and a great week. Bye.